All right, what's going on? It's Talking Giants, Bobby Skinner, and I am doing my post-Senior Bowl pre-free agency New York Giants 7-round draft. 6 rounds because we don't have any 7th-round picks as it stands. I do 4 of these mock drafts every year. I do a mid-season one during the bye week for the Giants. I do this one that's pre-free agency, post-Senior Bowl, and I do one to kick off the draft month, and then on draft day I do my final, like, hey, I've watched everyone. This is how I want to go for the Giants. So as far as mock drafts, I'm not mocking what I think. I'm mocking what I would do if I were the New York Giants GM. Now, and this one is going to be a little more biased as Senior Bowl guys because we went down to the Senior Bowl, which means we are prepping for a lot of Senior Bowl guys, and then we saw Senior Bowl guys, and it's like, okay, now we got to watch them. So I've just watched more Senior Bowl guys than others, and I can't just go off of whatever draft website and just repeat their takes. I gotta watch these guys on my own. So I've watched much more Senior Bowl guys than not. I don't do trades in mock drafts, although ideally I would love for the Giants to trade back, especially with all the offensive tackles out there. And the Giants have a lot of needs. They're rebuilding. They have some draft philosophies. I'm big like O-line and edge. This is a new one. Like, hey, draft those guys early and often. Best player available and need have to match early. Positional value is important, but it's not everything. So let's kick it off. We got 9 picks for the New York Giants. We got 2 first-rounders, a second, 2 thirds, a fourth, 2 fifths, and a 6. And the draft board went. Evan Neal went first. Aiden Hutchinson went second. Kyle Hamilton went third, and this is the decision. Who am I going to be picking? Kayvon Thibodeau went fourth to Oregon. So it made this pick easy for me. If Kayvon Thibodeau and the guy I picked were there, it'd be a lot tougher decision, especially with the way stuff played out and the way I was able to adjust edge as this went. But with round 1, pick 5, the first draft pick of the Joe Schoen era, I'm going NC State offensive tackle Ikem Ekwonu. 6'4", 320 pounds. This guy is a physical freak, and if you're watching this, you probably know who he is at this point, but he's a physical freak who can destroy players, and he can do it fast. He's extremely agile, and he moves well for a wide zone scheme, or if you want him to pull from that tackle spot. In the run game, he really mauls guys. Like, he gets to, he brings a nasty first punch, but it's not just a first punch. He finishes guys. There's reps where he has guys 10, 15 yards downfield and embarrasses defensive ends and defensive tackles, whether it's in down blocks, whether it's in, wide, and outside zone. Like, he embarrasses a defensive alignment. In pass pro, he has really good hand placement, and once he's got his hands on you, you're done. And he's athletic. For every pass rusher that he's going to face in the NFL, he's going to be athletic enough to face those guys. He's got really good agility to mirror guys and move back and forth with them. Obviously, the strength is there, so which means he's never going to be a victim of a bull rush. Now, he does have a lot of things to work on, and it starts with his feet. His feet need real work, and the Giants, we drafted a guy named Andrew Thomas who his feet needed work, and it got better, so he's got to put in the work. His feet need, and both pass and run. In the pass game, his feet click together. They come together. He doesn't have like the those NFL kick slides that Evan Neal has. So what does it do? It leaves him open for inside moves. Like he sets, his feet are skinny. He's not ready to power back down, gets beat inside. Now he does a good job of recovering well a lot of the times, but in the NFL, you can't just be good at recovering. You got to have your feet right, or you're gonna have some really bad reps. And also in the pass game, there's times where he mistimes his punches, he lunges, and he gets embarrassed. There's a rep, Jermaine Johnson got him a couple times, mistiming that punch. So that's something that he's got to work on. And those ugly reps can define an offensive tackle. In the run game, false steps. He has false steps, taking a step backwards to start the play. And he also misses the mark too often, where he hits the guys at the wrong angle. If he's getting to the second level, he's almost whiffing at times, just getting a little too heavy, too far ahead of himself, trying to deliver those knockout blows. So he needs to be a little more calm and cool and controlled in those run reps. And just those first steps. You make those first steps, bam, bam. Well, guess what? You get away with a lot of other things. So for the New York Giants, he's going to play right tackle, obviously. Andrew Thomas is their franchise left tackle. That helps him get work through some of his issues. You can get away with a lot of those things at right tackle, where at left tackle, you can't. Your struggles are going to be out there to be seen. So he's got some stuff to work on. But if you talk to this guy and he's a real deal worker and he wants to put in the work and be one of the greats, he can be one of the greats. If we're talking the offensive tackle 1 debate, if you're asking me who's going to be the better blocker tomorrow, it's Evan Neal. If you're asking me who can be a a next level guy. Now, Evan Neal's that guy, but Akeem Ekwonu moves guys. He's got the athleticism that really is very, very rare. So I'm really happy I got Akeem Ekwonu with my first pick. Now, what are we doing next? Are we going edge? Are we going offensive line? Find out. All right, round 1, pick 7. The trade from the Bears. This is the pick that defines that trade. There's more to it, but this is the pick that defines that trade. And I'm going O-line. And I'm not an O-line or, first 2 picks no matter what. If Thibodeau fell to 5, I probably would have taken him because there is other tackles I like other than Ekwonu. There was edge guys I thought about this pick like Karlaftis, maybe even a cornerback in Stingley. But at the end of the day, I went with the guy who I thought was the best player out of these guys. And that's Texas A&M interior offensive line Kenyon Green, 6'4", 320 pounds. And again, I love this guy. That's what made me pick him. Not just so stuck in that we have to fix the O-line. Because we do. We need to take the offensive line more serious in the draft process. But I like this guy. I think he's the most underrated player in the draft right now. I think he's being put below guys like Tyler Linderbaum. And I've even seen people put him below Zion Johnson. I think he's clearing away the top interior guy on the interior for this draft class. And why do I love him? To start, this guy is so solid in pass protection, and he plays 4 different spots. He played left tackle, left guard, and right tackle, but he's going to play in the inside in the NFL. But in the pass pro, his base is just so wide and strong. I mean, he never gets pushed off. He never gets his feet crossed over on it. I did a breakdown on him. Check it out versus Alabama, and this wasn't even from 2021, from 2020, and he just holds up every play. His feet are always there. He's bringing the hands to the party. He's readjusting. He's reworking his hands when he doesn't get perfect hand placement. And he's got good feet to just be able to mirror those players. You go one way, I'm going the other. I mean, it's really beautiful pass protection. And he never gets beat by the bull rush. He's never going to be outworked strength-wise in the NFL level. And he definitely wasn't at the college level in the SEC football. So he never gets beat by that bull rush, and he's got the hands and the feet. I mean, I don't know why this guy is not being talked about more. Maybe by the end of the draft process, I think maybe people will get back on the Kenyon Green train. But you can argue he's the best offensive line in this class. I don't think he's better than Evan Neal, but I think just like better football player, I think he's better than Akeem Ekwonu. Now, Akeem Ekwonu plays tackle, which is a much more important position. But I just think Kenyon Green is the real deal, and I don't know why he's getting underrated in this. In the run game, his feet stay short, choppy, wide through contact. The one thing I think he can get better at is those first 2 steps. I think he can fire off the ball a little quicker, and sometimes his hands land outside. And he does a good job, again, at readjusting and fixing his hands. But you can lose reps like that. But he does get solid movement in the run game. Again, that wide base. It's a beautiful thing to see him duck walk guys, down the line of scrimmage or up the field. And then he fits in all schemes. You could put him in a wide zone. They didn't do a ton of it at Texas A&M. They did more gap. He pulls really well. I mean, again, watch that breakdown. He pulls. He gets down the line. Not a ton of lead blocking experience, but then working combos. Good job. Good job giving help, but also staying patient and getting to the second level. Not getting to the second level too fast or overextending and falling on your face. And then also not spending too much time on the double team where the linebacker, washes over, scrapes over, and you miss the guy. So I like this guy way more than other people do. I don't know why he's not being talked about more. And again, this isn't an O-line, first 2 picks are bust. This is value at an important position. And I know there's positional value, and people say, oh, you can't take a guard here. I don't agree with that. If I like Tyler Linderbaum better than Kenyon Green, I would take him here too at the 7th spot. But I like Kenyon Green the most out of these guys. And I think he's real deal. And I think now for the New York Giants, you have Andrew Thomas, Akeem Ekwonu, Kenyon Green as young pieces that you're going to build around. And now you're kind of free the rest of the draft or whatever you did in free agency. Like, hey, we got Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux. Not going to, Nick Gates, we don't know what he's going to be coming back from the injury. Shane Lemieux, at least, let him battle for a starting job. So I think you just have more competition, but you have your 3 pieces that you really are going to build around the offensive line. And you feel a lot comfortable going in the rest of the draft of like, hey, we're just picking players. So Kenyon Green, round 1, pick 7 for the Giants. All right, round 2, pick 36, top of the second round for the Giants. Another extremely important pick. Round 2, sometimes you get your best players on your roster. Pro Bowlers, all pros. A lot of them come from the top of the second round. And I went with a cornerback. And I know cornerback isn't the sexiest need right now for the Giants, but Wink needs his cornerbacks to be diverse and be able to play man coverage. And that's what Auburn cornerback Roger McCreary is. And I fell in love with this guy down at the Senior Bowl. And as far as just situation with the Giants, James Bradbury could be gone. I don't really subscribe to that, I thought, unless there's a good trade value with him. Adore has dealt with injuries, and you can never have enough corners. Like that phrase is true, and especially in a Wink Martindale defense. His defense this past year for the Ravens got hurt because of the injured corners. And this Giants team is rebuilding. So it's not all about this year. It's about building long term. Other guys I thought about the spot, Christian Harris out of Alabama, as a linebacker, but I thought Roger McCreary was a better pick here. The way this is played out, I can see myself falling in love with some of the other edge guys. David DeAngelo out of Michigan, I think Trey Walker out of Georgia, guys I haven't really went, full into, because there just wasn't like edges that I thought made good value picks here. So that might change the way I do it when I do my post free agency, draft month mock draft. But I'm happy with Auburn cornerback Roger McCreary. I mean, he was clearly the best cornerback at the Senior Bowl. He led the SEC in pass breakups while holding opposing QBs to 45% completion percentage. And he works well pressed up in man. And he's not the most physical guy in press coverage. He's not J.C. Horn where he's just jamming the crap out of you, grabbing you. But he's good in that press man, and he diagnoses releases and forces guys to the sideline, and he's able to run with them, stay in that hip pocket, and play through the ball, and again, make plays on the ball. In zone, he's got a good feel, having his back turned and understanding route combos, picking things up, making plays on the ball. And again, where his weakness is right now, I see, is when he's playing off coverage in zone. He kind of gets killed on those slants or those whip routes or double moves underneath, not the deep double moves, but the underneath double moves, because he's just got so much ground to pick up, to gain. So I think that's something he needs to get better at, and with good coaching can get better at. And as far as in the run game, which matters for cornerbacks too, he gets off blocks like a linebacker. I mean, he comes up to play, and he made some big stops for Auburn in the run game. So Roger McCreary, round 2, this is a long-term investment. This isn't about getting the most wins out of 2022 for me. This is getting a long-term investment in a Wink Martindale type defense. All right, round 3, pick 67. We're kicking off the third round for the New York Giants. We went O-line, grabbed a cornerback. We're going back to the offensive side of the ball, and this was just a guy who was BPA, and I couldn't pass up on him here. Colorado State tight end Trey McBride. Again, he was simply the best player available on the board in a position of need for the Giants right now. Kyle Rudolph is gone. Evan Ingram most likely gone. Even if Evan Ingram's here, he's not a good tight end. He's not as bad as the 2020 season, but he's not a good tight end. And Trey McBride had 90 catches for almost 1,200 yards in 12 games in 2021 for Colorado State. Showed up to the Senior Bowl. Smaller than I thought he'd be. He's 6'3", 250, and he's not a speed demon. So you're like, oh, a shorter tight end who's not that speedy guy. But I'm sorry, he's just the best tight end in this class. We went down to the Senior Bowl, and he showed out. He showed that he wasn't just a product of playing against weaker competition. The tight end group was probably the best group down there, and he was the best of the tight end group. And again, he understands route running, getting in and out of breaks. He makes contested catches and is really a handful to bring down after the play. Like, I don't think because he's not the speediest guy, he doesn't get a lot of credit for his yak, but he is really hard to bring down after the play. So the only guy who really gave me some thought here to challenge it was Darian Kennard, the tackle out of Kentucky who will probably move inside the NFL. It's just I went to O-line in the first 2 picks. And Kennard worries me. He's just super sloppy. I don't know if he's going to be a good offensive lineman. He has all the tools to be it. I just don't know if he's going to be. So he was the one who gave me some thought here. And there's an edge, but I know there's 2 edges I was viewing here. And one was going to be the next pick, Boye Mafe out of Minnesota, and then DeAngelo Malone out of Western Kentucky. So a little spoiler on the next pick. End up at Boye Mafe. But again, Trey McBride was simply the best player available, and I think he's going to be a baller in the NFL, and I can't pass that up. I can't pass that up to look for a need or something. And again, tight end is a need for the Giants, so I think he's going to be a really good player at the NFL level. I think he's going to come in from day one and be that starter. And as a blocker, like, he doesn't take off reps as a blocker. He brings it as a blocker on every single rep. The only thing that you could point out against this pick to me is the fact that, hey, there's a guy like Jake Ferguson who might be there in the next round, like to hesitate. But at the end of the day, I think Trey McBride's the best tight end in this class. You get him at the top of the 3rd round, this guy's going to be your starting tight end for a long time. Like I think you have a long-term starter with this pick, and you can't go wrong with that in round 3 to me, when it's really less about need and more about the future and best player available. So round 3, pick 67, Colorado State tight end Trey McBride. All right, let's finish off day 2. We got round 3, pick 81. We got this pick from the Miami Dolphins in the trade down where the Giants ended up getting Azeez Ojulari. Again, round 3, pick 81. And I'm finally addressing edge. I wish I would address a jet. You know, I'm a little disappointed in myself that I didn't get like one of those top edge guys, and maybe that changes in the next mock draft come draft month. But I'm going edge, and I'm going Minnesota. Boye Mafe, 6'3", 255 pounds. Another guy who popped off at the Senior Bowl, and obviously this one's gonna have a little more Senior Bowl bias than the next ones. Had 7 sacks and 10 tackles for a loss for Minnesota this past season. Decided between Marno Goodrich, the cornerback out of Clemson, and then Chad Muma, the linebacker out of Wyoming. But I just think Boye Mafe has a higher ceiling than both those players, and at a more important position. As far as him as a player, he's a quick get off, like very quick getting off the line of scrimmage every single rep. He works his hands, very fast hands that never stop working. Like he's going to test you every single rep. Every single rep is going to be a challenge for your tackles to protect that edge. Now he doesn't have great bend, like he's not getting low and dipping around the edge great, but he has, it's good, not great. But we're talking about middle of round 3 at this point. His hands, like I said, they're always working, but they're more finesse than pop. He needs to add just more strength to his game in general, but where I feel like he can really add that the most is in his hands. Like, bring that pop so you can add a bull rush to your arsenal, where they're not just protecting against speed around the edge. And there's times where you see him work them, and there's a rep against Ohio State versus the right tackle where he puts him on his ass. But even then, that play didn't start off with his strength. It came with finesse and getting the tackle off balance. So again, hands are more finesse than pop. And he's actually got a little bit of coverage experience, which is important for a Wink Martindale Ravens defense. Not the most important thing, but hey, you know how to drop back in the coverage. And again, it's not a ton. But Boye Mafe, he's a guy who's got a kind of a higher ceiling for a guy who's going to be here in the middle of round 3. But a lot of stuff to work with, where there's other guys who might be a little more refined that just don't have like the raw athleticism that Boye Mafe out of Minnesota has. So that's round 3, pick 81. All right, we're starting off day 3 with round 4, pick 110 from the Bears. The Giants don't own their 4th pick because of the Ben Bredesen pick swap with the Ravens. They have the 5th pick from the Ravens from the Chiefs, which we'll be getting to not next, but the pick after that. We're starting off day 3 with a guy who's at least going to bring depth to this offensive line, and that's something that the last regime under Dave Gettleman didn't do. They didn't address starters as offensive line, but they also didn't address depth ever in the draft. Like the 2020 draft, they did a good job by looking at getting 3 offensive linemen in Thomas Parrott and Shane Lemieux, where it's like, hey, even if these guys don't turn the starters, and like a guy like Lemieux, he can at least be good depth. But besides that, they didn't do it. So guys like Shane Lemieux were thrown into the starting roles as a rookie. And I'm getting from Tennessee, Chattanooga, home of Tay Davis or Terrell Owens, interior offensive lineman Cole Strange, 6'4", 304 pounds. Now, I didn't have much knowledge of him going into the Senior Bowl except for Do a Barrel Roll, who, if you watch YouTube videos of draft players, Do a Barrel Roll, go support him, saying that he's good. So I'm like, okay, offensive line, interior offensive line, let me watch this guy. Well, he only played 1 game of center in his career, but he took over the job in Mobile, Alabama, for the Northern team. Like, they didn't have for the other team, they didn't have a center. So him and Zion Johnson kind of took it over, but Cole Strange was like, no, Cole Strange played like every rep at center, where Zion Johnson was moving back and forth. And he looked really good. I mean, he brings the pop to guys. I went and watched some Chattanooga film. Really brings the pop to guys and moves them in the run game with good leverage. He's really just a ball of muscle, 304 pounds of just muscle. Moves guys, works the angles, gets underneath, good pad level with good hand pop. Like, he's really strong at the point of attack and moves guys in the run game. And pass pro, he brings the hands and really can stonewall guys. Like, there was one-on-one rips where he's just stonewalling the best guys like Perrion Winfrey. Now, that being said, there is some ugly pass reps where he doesn't bring, his feet don't recover and he gets embarrassed, but he always seemed to recover versus those guys. And then also one-on-one, like a lot of that was in one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. And, that's not the most realistic for an interior offensive line because usually you got guys helping, especially if you're playing center. But I think people say he's going to be a guard, but the fact that he took over center, like that helps, and again, I think he can turn into a starter. It's not a guarantee, but he's at least going to be good depth to me. So again, I think he can develop, but I at least got some good depth. You have to address depth and take chances on guys. Quinn Miners was a guy, who kind of had a similar trajectory from the Senior Bowl last year. So we're starting off day 3, the day I love the most. I think it's the most fun day of the draft with Tennessee, Chattanooga, Cole Strange. All right, round 5, pick 146. And we're going back to the edge room, and we're betting on speed, speed, speed. And we're going Western Kentucky edge DeAngelo Malone, 6'3", 234 pounds. The last 3 seasons for Western Kentucky, he's had 25 sacks and 48.5 tackles for a loss. And I get it, it's against lower competition, but those are still unreal numbers. And he was a guy who, I'm watching the Senior Bowl, I'm like, this guy is winning reps. Like, he's not even just winning them, like, he's having, like, dominant reps. And then Justin, turns to me, the next day. He's like, man, that DeAngelo Malone guy out of Western Kentucky is dominating reps. So I went and watched his Western Kentucky film, and it shows up. Again, it's that speed, speed, speed off the edge. He embarrasses guys in college football and at the Senior Bowl. Guys who were, handling guys like Kingsley Enagbare, who's, probably going to be a second-round pick out of South Carolina. DeAngelo Malone was embarrassing those same offensive tackles. He's got a repertoire of moves to attack the edge. He can dip through and again, bend that corner. He can go work outside in when when the offensive tackle is really worried about his speed. So if you have like a right tackle who's a little slow, he's going to make you pay. Now, here's the issue with DeAngelo Malone. 234 pounds, very slight. He struggles versus setting the edge in the run. When they're running at him, they're able to move him off the ball. Now he'll have some really nice wins in the run because he's able to shed guys with his speed. But when a guy gets his hands on him and is moving him off the edge, it's not great for DeAngelo. So I don't know how much that's going to get better at the NFL level, and I know that might make people a disqualifier. But again, we're talking about round 5 right here, and I've got a guy who's got speed that can embarrass NFL offensive tackles. And again, the positions you want to draft early and then often, edge, offensive line. Well, guess what? Off edge here with Western Kentucky, DeAngelo Malone, to go with our earlier edge in Boye Mafe. So I got that speed on the edge. Next pick, round 5, pick 172. This pick is from the Ravens in the Ben Bredeson trade. They, the Giants pick swapped the 4th and 5th, but they got this pick from the Chiefs. So that's pick 172. Pretty wide gap from what that original 4th round pick would be. I don't know if Ben Bredeson ended up being worth it, but anyways. We're going with someone that's actually kind of more of a need than you would think for the New York Giants team. That's LSU defensive tackle Neil Farrell Jr., 6'3", 338 pounds. He's a nose tackle, maybe a 3 technique at times, depending on what you're running. But this is kind of a need for the Giants. I mean, Dexter Lawrence, I don't know if they're going to pick up the option on him, but he's entering year 4. Austin Johnson is a free agent, and B.J. Hill was traded, for Billy Price and during the preseason. They kind of don't have like that run stuffing guy unless they bring back Austin Johnson, and then Danny Shelton was obviously garbage. Now you can sign guys in free agency to replace this for pretty cheap, but then that's how you get a guy like Danny Shelton who was a net negative for the New York Giants. He had 9 tackles for a loss this past season. He's got good get off for his size, and he can really stun offensive linemen to disrupt the play. Like he can have. For a defensive tackle, he can just have some beautiful reps, and especially for a guy that is being mocked this late right now. And at the Senior Bowl, I mean, he dominated Senior Bowl practices, just dominant. Me and Grump were just like, oh my God, rep after rep after rep after rep. And then our guy Robert Smith did some of the interviews at the media breakfast and was asking guys like, hey, who was the best player out there that you were facing? And they all were saying like Neil Farrell Jr. or that guy from LSU, the defensive lineman from LSU. He really impressed. And I did watch some film with him against UCLA and Chip Kelly. So if they're not running right at him, he can be ineffective, and guys can get like the right angle on him. And if he doesn't win that that first step, he can be ineffective at times in the run game. And then as a pass rusher, like he has good pass rush moves and he could beat that block, but he's just not fast enough to like be a pass rushing defensive tackle. He'll get a couple sacks a year, but he's never going to be, those Jonathan Allen. And again, we're picking him in round 5, so what do you expect? But he's never going to be a pass rushing defensive tackle. You're going to probably have to take him off the field on 3rd and long. But hey, stopping the run is important. It still is important, and Farrell Jr. is going to help you do that, and he's going to give you some good pass rush situations to at least push the pocket back, and set stuff up for your edge rushers. Now we head to the final pick for the New York Giants 2022 draft. All right, let's finish off the draft. Round 6, pick 180. Giants don't have any 7th-round picks due to the B.J. Hill, Billy Price trade with the Bengals. Pick 180, and we're going Miami. The U, wide receiver Charleston Rambo, who was a transfer from Oklahoma this past season, came into Miami and was the only bright spot really for Miami this past season. Broke their single season record for receiving yards. I mean, he was averaging 95 yards per game. I know they played more games than they used to, but still, he broke the Miami receiving record as a transfer from Oklahoma. And what does he do? He runs fast. Speed. And in the late rounds, that's what I want to bet on. I want to bet on speed. Speed translates at every single level. He's got a pretty good release package at the line of scrimmage. Now, he's not going to win in contested catch situations, and he needs to work on route running. I don't know if you can put him on the outside. He might have to move to slot in the NFL because I don't know if he's going to win on the sideline consistently. It's in the NFL it's more about winning routes than it is just being faster than other guys. But Rambo does some good stuff though, so I don't want to take it away from him. You give him a pick round 6. I'm excited about this guy, and Mario Cristobal is going to save Miami. I actually had him in this same slot in the midseason mock draft. The only 2 players that came back from the midseason mock draft was Trey McBride. That being Trey McBride was available in the 5th in the midseason. Funny how things change. Got him in the 3rd. So to recap, we got our offensive line fixed at least beginning to fix in the 1st round. Akem Ekwonu at NC State, and then Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. In the 2nd round, we're rebuilding, and we gave ourselves a long-term piece for Wink Martindale, Roger McCreary, cornerback out of Alabama. 3rd round, we couldn't pass up Colorado State tight end Trey McBride. He was the best player available, and you couldn't pass him up. And to kick off the 2nd, 3rd round pick, well, we finally got our first edge. A little later than I probably would have wanted, but Boye Mafe out of Minnesota, a guy with good get-off, good hands, and he's got a higher ceiling than most 3rd-round guys would have. We kicked off round 4 with Chattanooga, Tennessee, interior offensive line Cole Strange, who's at least going to be some good depth for us. And then round 5, we went, where did we go? Oh boy, DeAngelo Malone, Western Kentucky, and then Farrell, the defensive tackle out of LSU. We got to replace someone there. Austin Johnson, Danny Shelton, both those guys gone, and then we obviously finished it off with Charleston and Rambo. So subscribe. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune in for draft season. The Talking Football channel is going to have more of the draft breakdowns. Even though I'm going to throw a couple on Talking Giants just to get the juices flowing. And the next Giants mock draft will be April 4th, kicking off draft month. So get ready for it. I'm excited for the next one already. Let's go Big Blue. Let's go Joe Shane. Let's go Brian Dable. Let's fix this damn team. Let's go Big Blue.